everybody, good evening. Welcome to this English Live. We are right spot on time. It's 7 o'clock in London, 7 p.m. I'm just gonna wait a few more minutes until somebody connects. If anybody is connected and if you would like to say hello or anything. Oh, hello Veronica. Great, we're on. From this hand, because they told me, be careful not to use another device because, mind you, it could be very silent. Unless it's on silence, you would hear and it would feedback the sound. So I don't have anything else where I could see when I'm on, but I know we're on now. Wonderful. Hello, Veronica. Great. This evening we are going to talk about forgiveness and healing. It is actually the follow-up conversation that we had before, where we were talking about victims and perpetrators. So the logical next step is to inquire, and again this evening, like always, this is an inquiry, a discussion, and a sharing. So I very much strongly recommend you to please ask questions. I love difficult questions. If I don't know the answer, I have absolutely no problem to tell you straight away, I don't know. But I would attempt to tell you what my opinion is about whatever we're inquiring. And like everything that I always speak about, it is simply my own view based on my experience, on my knowledge, and on my perception. And talking about perception, I invite you now to become aware that it's many of us here. And when I mean here, we may not be numerically many right here, right now, in this moment, although people will be watching this live. And there is a dimension where time and space do not affect it. And this group, I am very much convinced and aware of the fact that it's raising human consciousness, and it's doing it because we are all intended to evolve and to become more, hello Matilda, become more of who we truly are. So it doesn't really matter if we are, let's say it's thousands and thousands of people in this group. It doesn't matter if we are not here right now at the same time, because each time that somebody watches any of the lives that we do, the consciousness and the vibration gets put out there in the field, and everybody else benefits from it. So the process at a different level, it's undergoing regardless space and time. Hello, Mirella. Well, why did I choose to talk about healing, forgiveness and healing? Because normally, whenever a healing needs to take place, a forgiveness process is required. In other words, whenever we are feeling resentful towards someone or a situation, or maybe towards ourselves, because maybe sometimes we find it difficult to forgive ourselves, that negative energy gets stored in our body and may, Annalisa, and may manifest in a physical element, like maybe cancer, or maybe chronic fatigue or whatever else could be, or we may become depressed. But in other words, if we let go and realize what really forgiveness and forgiving means, healing is going to take place. And tonight we're going to talk about forgiveness, healing, why sometimes it's difficult to forgive, how we can forgive, and how we can look at forgiveness from two different perspectives, from a human, systemic, cultural perspective, and from a purely spiritual, divine perspective. And these two realities, they are both active and operating at the same time, although there are slight differences that I personally believe it's important to keep in mind. Hello, Mattia. I'm glad you managed to come in. Right. Thank you, Matilda, for saying hello. Right. Oh, I don't know if I've done it before when I started right now, but I'm going to thank you very much for being here. And thank you for watching it, for whoever is going to watch it afterwards. Now, from now on, please, if you have any questions about forgiveness, write them down, or any comments. I'd like you to consider that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Like we are souls, spirits incarnated. From a divine, spiritual point of view, there is actually nothing ever and no one to forgive, because everything that is manifested in this reality, it's an extension, a projection of our inner consciousness. Like I always say, I am now looking, I can't physically see you, but I know that through the hole, if I could see you the other side of the camera, it's you, and you are an extension of me. Everything that is here in this room, it's an extension of me. What looks outside, it's a concept. We are actually all in this field. We are all energetic beings, very interwoven and connected to each other. And keep in mind that because of this reality, everything that appears to be a cause in the physical realm, for example, who we call a perpetrator that act and harm the victim, we think is the cause of suffering, of the suffering of the victims. Although everything in this reality, even what we think is a cause, it is already an effect of our consciousness. In other words, if I believe that there's perpetrators and victims, hello Mel, great to have you here. I'm looking forward to read what you're going to be writing. So if we believe, and until we believe, that there's people that they are perpetrators and they are, let's say, bad, negative, nasty people, they will be in my reality. They will appear on this human scene. So if I don't want to see any more perpetrators, if I don't want to see anybody which now I am judging to be nasty, the most powerful and immediate thing that I can do without even moving a finger is to work on my own inner consciousness and realize this is not a mental act. This is not make believe that negativity doesn't exist. This is realizing the truth. And the truth is that nobody is a perpetrator. What looks like a perpetrator is somebody that is already a victim of something that they have experienced before we met them and before they were, let's say, wearing the suit of the perpetrator. And this is what we talked last time. If you haven't seen, whoever is watching this and hasn't seen the previous live in English, I advise you to do it. Hello, Wendy. Great to see you as well. Hello, Julia. So, but even though there is nothing and nobody to forgive, we are here to experience who we truly are. And yes, who we truly are is infinite potential. It is infinite unconditional love. But it doesn't work in such an easy way that for us is enough to be told or to read that we are infinitely capable, hello Sarah, and infinitely forgiving. So normally in life something will happen because we have the opportunity to experience ourselves to be what we call forgiving and to experience a healing. Some of you, I know, you've heard this story. Some of you may have not heard this story. If I'm not mistaken, it's called The Story of the Little Star and the Sun. And it's written in a book by Neil Donald Walsh. I'm not actually sure if he wrote it or if he mentioned it that somebody else wrote it, but it's not important now. But this is what the story is about. This was this star, and it was, let's say, up in heaven. And this star knew that was magnificent. It knew that was pure, unconditional love, that was bright, that was amazing. Although she couldn't really experience it. She knew it, that she was, but for her was the norm. That was all she knew. So she asked God. She told him, hello Lucia, she said, God, you know what, God, I am, and I'm not sure if this is the story, it goes this way, but it gives the idea. She said, I would like, and also all my friends, stars, we would all like to experience who we truly are at an experiential level, not just an intellectual level. We know we are magnificent, but we haven't experienced that. How can we do that? So, of course, God, being God, I mean, being omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscience, that knows everything, he thinks for a moment and goes, I have an idea. Do you know? But you have to be careful here, but it will work. I'm going to send you into a planet called planet Earth, let's say. You're going to be incarnated. And before you incarnate, you're going to be drinking from the river of forgetfulness. So that when you will be born there, you won't remember who you truly are. You won't remember that you are a star, that you are a spiritual being. And I will be sending you other stars. So some of you now, you can decide the game you will be playing. Some of you will be doing very, very nasty things to each other so that you can experience the magnificence of who you are. You can experience yourself to be forgiving. And the one that will be inflicting pain onto others will be experiencing what it means and how it feels not to be who you truly are. You will be experiencing something that is different from you, something that it's not magnificent. But be careful. I really hope that deep down in yourself, in your consciousness, even in the darkest time, you will remember who you truly are, because it won't be that easy. And so they all agree, they all think it's a wonderful idea. So all the stars, imagine they're all going to have the last drink up from the river of forgetfulness, and down they go. They incarnate in planet Earth. In a way, this is what's happening. Hello, Pamela. Great to see you here. This is what is happening. Hello, Grazia. This is what's happening here in this reality. When somebody is doing something that makes us suffer, if we are aware that this is a worldly drama, that deep down we have the opportunity to express and realize who we truly are, forgiving may come about in an easier way. But sometimes we find it difficult to forgive because at a, of course unconscious, but at a very deep level, we know that to forgive implies that our life is going to accelerate. Our evolutionary process, it's gonna take off. We become responsible, and with the responsibility, we have to live in a different way. You know, when people suffer, they are not feeling comfortable, but sometimes they have acquired this mentality, this victim mentality, and they've had it for such a long time that it's their comfort zone. And there are what are called secondary gains to have from being a victim that people actually enjoy and like. In other words, well, culturally it's easy. Look, it's enough just to put the news on. We are victims of the economic crisis. Now we are victim of a virus. We are always victim of something, right? Now, think about this. I always laugh when I picture this, but because I've seen this what I'm describing. If you go into, let's say, a full bar, full of people, you don't know anybody, right? You come in, let's say a pub, an English pub where everybody stands up. You come in, and the barman asks you, how are you? And you go, quite loud that other people hear you. Oh, life is terrible. If you knew, oh, I've just been treated very badly by the taxi driver and people at work that really, I can't stand them. They're really picking on me. I bet you in not even 30 seconds, you have at least 1, 2, 3, or 4 or 5 people around you. Of course, this is out of love. That they tell you, oh, I'm so sorry about that. But you know what? You haven't heard what happened to me. And everybody starts with their shopping list about how they are the victims of whatever is happening to them. And that is like a glue for people. It's a social glue that binds people together, right? It's called, some people, I love Caroline Myss. She's a medical intuitive, and she talks about woundology. And she explains this dynamic very well. So yes, when we make other people, directly or indirectly, feeling sorry for ourselves, they feel empathy. Of course, it's not healthy and evolved empathy, but it's a kind of low energy empathy that although communicate people. If you go in the same bar and the barman asks you, how are you? And you go, I'm feeling great. Life is amazing. I don't know, I'm assuming. But chances are that not many people would come and join you. And chances are, hello Sarah, that some people would actually overhear you and think, oh, who does he think he is? You see? Or maybe they would even come and challenge you. Or they'd be thinking, well, what planet do you live on? How can you be so happy with all that's going on? Because you know, what we call, let's call it like race consciousness, what we call it the status quo for the majority of people on the planet right now, it is a victimistic view of the world and of themselves. I am thrilled to be part of this group because I can feel, I can sense, I read, whenever I can even glance at other people's life, I love what everybody here talks about, which is about taking responsibility for who we truly are and how to face conditions and people and events in a positive way. Actually, I listened to, it was literally just a few minutes of Pamela Live a few days ago, and this is exactly what she was saying. And this is exactly how we can go from feeling victims to feeling creators and interpreting our life events how we choose to be, to interpret it, and know how we have culturally been trained to consider ourselves to be, which is victims to others, to life, and to events. Hello, Steph. Hello from Dublin. Thank you. I'd like you to consider one thing, actually two things inherent a system. I like very much the systemic view of life and also of the person, of the being. Hello, Antonella. We are, each one of us is a system, okay? I am Luca, physically also, I am a system which is made of many cells, many atoms, many organs, and all together with you and with animals and everything, I am a part of a very even more complex system, which is humanity, and then is the cosmos itself, the whole universe. Every system, we are soul brothers, yes, absolutely, exactly. Every system has got or is governed by two main forces, and these forces, they act in quite two opposite ways. One force that every system is conditioned by is the homeostatic force. Homeostasis means equilibrium, meaning there's a force, a tendency in the system that wants to keep it as it is, wants to keep the status quo of the system, wants to protect it. It doesn't want it to expand. In us, when I apply that to a person, I like to consider that the mental, egoic tendency that we have to protect ourselves. We want to be in our comfort zone because we are afraid of being judged. We are afraid of failing, which is all, it all springs from the fear of being judged, which I really truly believe is the biggest fear the humankind has, of being judged. So because of that fear, we don't really want to go out from our comfort zone. And that could be one of the reasons why people sometimes find it very difficult to forgive. Because to forgive implies to a growth. They have to grow. They have to become responsible of what is happening. They have to reinterpret what is happening. And that it's an effort. But at the same time, there's another force, another energy that wants the system to expand. In fact, every living organism, every living system expands. We are born at the very beginning. We are as a little sperm, and then we grow in the tummy of mom, and then we grow, and then we get old, and then we transition, we go somewhere else, but we are always expanding. The expanding energy, I like to consider it the energy of the soul, of our essence, that wants to always experience more of who it truly is. In fact, and this, I would dare to say, is really a natural, universal process. Everybody suffers, everybody feels like a victim. I was one of them until I was 32 years of age. I used to have a very, very victimistic mentality. But then I got fed up. Then, you probably know my story, things happened and everything shifted. But I have seen many other people that they are going through the same process, meaning they feel like a victim, life is hard, they think they are at the mercy of life circumstances and other people, until something clicks, until they don't tolerate it anymore, they have enough, and they evolve. Because I truly believe that their soul, their essence is pushing them to expand. And it is a challenge, though. It is almost like a battle between the protective, egoic tendency of not growing up. Because you know what? Ultimately, what we consider our ego, our mind, I personally think that it is our friend. You know, I am not one of those people that thinks, we should transcend ego altogether, we should forget about our human limited conditioned part, and we should just identify with our spiritual part. Why? Because we have them both. And unless we have worked through through our human burdens and human baggages, and we haven't learned how to reinterpret them and to understand them and to get free of them, it's not enough to know who we truly are. It's not enough to realize that I am a being of light. I still have to look at what happened when someone treated me in a way that I didn't like, and ask myself, what is the part that I played in that scenario? What is, let's say, the lesson? I don't personally believe the life is a school. I think the life is a game. I like to see it more lightheartedly. We are just here to experience. Although even to play a lighthearted game, sometimes we have to go through quite harsh challenges. And unless we ask ourselves, what was the part I played, even when I felt like a victim, it's important. Because who we call a perpetrator might have acted, consciously or unconsciously, might have reacted to something that we've done. Ciao Alessia, hello. Now, has anybody got any questions? If nobody has any questions about forgiving, I would like all of us to do something. Nobody's got any questions? Wonderful. Okay. Now, you don't need to close your eyes unless you want to. You could close your eyes. This is not a meditation. This is not the visualization. This is something that we do accessing what we always have access to. I like to call it the knowing field, or you could call it universal intelligence. Life itself, it doesn't matter. Now, I would like you to have in mind a situation where you have felt like a victim, or maybe now, maybe you feel a victim of your economic situations, of your political situations, or think about someone you have something unresolved with, someone that you feel hurt by. Then what I'd like you to do is imagine that in front of you there is this thing, and to do this is probably easier if you close your eyes. I'm not asking you to visualize or to create from a mental level. I ask you to be open and receptive to whatever you see. In other words, be present and just in your body see how you feel when this something or this person appears, and notice how the situation appears, because it could appear in front of you, or you could have it in your, even if you with your eyes open, you could have a sense of this thing as a person, or see the person how he appears to you, and see how you feel. And then I invite you to imagine that your consciousness, your inner awareness, is getting out from you. Poof. Okay? It's overlooking the situation. It's overlooking yourself, your body underneath, and the situation of the person that made you suffer. See how you feel. And then imagine and feel that your consciousness now is going in, is representing literally the situation or the person you felt hurt by. Literally, you are embodying it or embodying them. Here again, just listen and feel. Do not imagine anything. If you don't feel anything, it doesn't matter. While you are there, ask. We ask together, but I prompt you to be receptive to the whatever you feel. Ask if there's anything that the situation or the person wants to communicate to you. If there's anything that you would benefit from knowing, from perceiving. Then your consciousness now is getting out from the challenge or the person. Again, it's floating above. Take a look down. Notice if anything changes, if anything shifted or changed. Take a look at what you see. And then again, get inside of yourself. Now your consciousness gets inside of yourself again. See how you feel. See if you feel any different than you felt before. Hello, Tonya. Welcome. And now do this in your mind, or you can say it out loud. Say, I see you, and I say yes to you. And notice how you feel after saying that, or while you say or think that. Then say, you have a place in my life. I thank you. You belong to me. You belong to my life. And that's it. You could do this. If you want to write your experience, If you want to do this, then again, you can, regarding anything. This is to consider a situation or somebody from a slightly different perspective, from a perspective which is not mental, but it's more of acknowledging what has happened and simply to give a place to what has happened in our life, in our past, and to realize that it is a part of us. Now, each one of us is different. Each one of us would feel something different. But sometimes one of the reasons why we don't forget or we find it difficult is because we don't want, or we are not able to integrate whatever has happened or whatever is happening or that person into our own reality, into our own life. But what we resist, what we don't want or we wouldn't have not wanted to happen, persists, gets stronger and dominates our life. That's why to be able to forgive, the first thing that we have to acknowledge is to acknowledge, recognize and accept and welcome what has happened. Even if we are not able to see yet what had happened, even though we don't know what is the learning that I can assure you will come from what have happened. But the process that I wanted you to do, that I invited you to do, it's a very unconscious process. It is not something that we do just mentally. We are always connected with everybody and with life itself. Let's say somebody has betrayed you, and this person has betrayed you maybe 3 months ago, and he or she lives in Australia and you live in London. If something in your consciousness shifts when you think about that person, in other words, if you go from thinking that person should have not behaved like that, I hate him or her, and you feel resentment, and you go from even just opening yourself up to the possibility that that person could have done what he or she did to teach you something, to have you realize something, to help you out in an indirect way, and your energy shifts, you're able to say, I don't know if you guys are aware of the Ho'oponopono technique, method, where we actually think about something we are feeling resentment about, and we say, I'm sorry for what has happened. I'm sorry for what you did. I'm sorry for how I feel about you. I'm sorry. And you keep saying, I'm sorry. And you cover everything that has happened. And then you say, thank you. Then you try to look. Hello, Evelyn. Hello, I'm glad you're here. And then you transmute the energy. You look for something to be grateful for. And you say, please forgive me. Please forgive me for having judged you negatively. Please forgive me for thinking what I thought about you. And if you do this properly, you can see in yourself that your mental position, mental attitude shifts, and your emotions shift as well. And so then you can go and realize that you can be grateful for it. So you say, thank you. Thank you for what you have taught me. And then you realize that he or she was a master to you. And you even go as far as saying, I love you. Which in reality, when we say forgive me is not even forgive myself as much as forgive my mindset, forgive my victimistic mentality, forgive my conditioning, forgive me for not knowing and realizing and honoring who I truly am. Forgive me for not realizing and honoring your past. What you did, it was because you had your reason, conscious and many times probably unconscious, to do what you did. But it's my responsibility to clear up the conditioning, the projection, the negative notions I had about you. Do you know the story about Ho'oponopono? It's very interesting. I truly believe that we could go through saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you, without the real consciousness behind and really understanding the process and what we are saying and feeling what we're saying. But if you do it properly, it's so powerful. The doctor that, let's say, created it, that put it into practice the first time, it was a doctor called, useless with names, Lane, I think it was called, and it was in Hawaii. It was, he still is alive, I think. Yeah, it is alive, I think. It was, or it still is, a psychiatrist. And he was asked to work with patients in a psychiatric unit. But we are talking about very, very serious cases. Now, what he did, he didn't work with them directly. He worked on his own data, he says. He worked on his own mentality, on his own mental conditioning, his own mental data. And he went through this process. He understood and forgiven, oh my English, well, he forgave his conditioning. So he cleared up all this negative judgment that he had about, and everybody had about these people, so that he could see them and consider them in their consciousness for who they truly were, meaning without all these negative concepts. And they all got healed. They actually all left the hospital. Apparently, he did this so well that he cleared up the whole hospital. All these people, they got cured without any medicine. We don't have to cure at all hospitals to see that, but we can probably see that. And you're probably being in a situation when you expected somebody or a group of people to behave in a certain way, to be not considerate towards you, or not trustworthy, and they probably proved that to you. The principle is the same. If I believe that you are not a worthy human being, you may not even be aware of it. But my belief, my negative conditioning, will resonate with the unsecure part of you, and you may probably behave in a way that confirm my beliefs. This has been psychologically demonstrated with what is called the Rosenthal effect, where they made an experiment in school, and they told some teachers that in a class, certain students, they were very, very intelligent, and other students, they were not intelligent. But it wasn't true. It wasn't true. And to other teachers, they said the same. But again, it totally wasn't true. Now, what happened is that the students that the teacher believed they were not really good and clever, they were actually not performing as well as with teachers that they believed that they were the clever ones. So the perception, the expectation of the teacher was influencing at a very, very, very real level how much the students were performing. And that got everybody wondering what is going on. So what did they do? They wanted to know more, scientists and psychologists. So they made another experiment. And they did the same thing with rats, with mice. They got two teams of students, and they told them, now you have some mice, two group of mice, and this group, let's say group A, comes from a very, very intelligent, clever family of mice, and the other one, group B, comes from a not very intelligent group of mice. And these two groups of mice, they had to undergo a task, which was go through a labyrinth. Now, group A and group B were coming from the same family, so they mental abilities, they were the same. Guess what? The mice that the students believed to be more intelligent, they performed statistically better than the one that they were believed to be less intelligent. That's as far as our own consciousness can influence somebody else. This is how powerful we are. So as long as I believe that I am a victim and that somebody or a situation is inflicting something on me, that will be my experience. Somebody out there will confirm my belief. Ciao Antonella. We are that powerful. If we want to change anything in our reality, the only thing that we truly have to change is our consciousness. And I will never, ever get tired of saying that. If we don't want to see who we call negative people, which is just our judgment, nasty people and perpetrators, all we have to do is to realize that they are the product of our story. Our story. They, in reality, they are simply souls that they are very sensitive but not truly aware of who they truly are. Hello May, great to see you. Hello Ellen, great to see you too. They are not truly aware about who they are. So they actually act out of our collective conscious belief. I have seen that experientially quite a few times. I give you an example. I have been in situations in the past working with people where in the team, in the work environment, there was maybe one or two people that everybody else at work would tell me he or she is not a very nice person because, and they would tell me why, because he or she does this, this and this. And yes, I could see them, I was working with them, and I couldn't actually tell them you are wrong, because between them, that wasn't exactly the dynamic. He or she was behaving towards them exactly how they were describing. So yes, he or she was very bossy, very difficult, very demanding, and sometimes even manipulative. But I chose to view them and see them and regard them differently. I chose not to judge them, and I thought I am going to see how they behave towards me without listening or thinking that what others tell me is true, even though I've seen what they're talking about. But I don't want to think like that. I actually like to believe that they are not really like that. Guess what? He, him and her, they were behaving like me in a wonderful, wonderful way. Even better than most of other people would have behaved with me. And I'll tell you also why. Normally, people that we think they are bossy, they are manipulative. I'm not talking here of narcissists and anything like that. I'm just talking people with some tendencies that we judge as being maybe bossy and manipulative. They have probably, like I told you before about the homeostatic tendency of a system that wants to protect the system. Because of their upbringing, they may have been exposed to people's circumstances where to protect themselves, to stand up and not to be maybe bullied themselves, they became a bit bossy or a bit manipulative, right? It was a survival strategy. So this is their vibe. They are wary of other people, so they are projecting their mental script out there, and other people are feeding on it, reading it, and they play it out. If we choose, like I choose, and I'm sure you have think in the past, or do it now if you haven't done it yet, if you choose not to believe that somebody is however you could judge it negatively, bossy or manipulative or whatever, what happens is that they can unconsciously feel at ease. They don't feel judged. Every judgment is a psychic attack. If I think that him or her are nasty, this thought is going out and is attacking them psychically very, very harshly. But if I don't think anything, or maybe I even think he or she are lovely. Can you see the energy different? They feel at ease. And these people, because most of other people judge them, of course, because of how they project themselves in the world, you may be the only person that allows them to be who they truly are when they are with you. And you know how big of a gift is that you do to them. And to say thank you to you, it's all unconscious, but at a human systemic level, they feel that. To say thank you to you, they shower you with love. They shower you with things that others do not allow them to express and to give. Because the biggest gift that we can give to somebody or to ourselves is the gift of giving. So where we allow others to give us, to express that they are giving, they are loving, it's the biggest gift we can give them. And to do that, it's not difficult. It's just to get rid of all the prejudgment, judgment, mental concept that we can have towards anybody. All it takes is to be present, to be curious. Who are you? And if they behave in a way that we don't like, maybe we don't have to verbalize this aloud, but to ask ourselves, what is the reason behind? What made you behave like this? So if any of you are feeling resentment for something that has happened in the past, and it's okay, I can totally understand. You know, feel the emotion, say yes to the emotion. Yes, I'm feeling pissed off. Yes, they betrayed me. Yes, it's not fair. But after all this, after you felt all that you could feel and you literally deflated yourself, I invite you to ask yourself and ask life, ask the field, ask the universe. Or mentally imagine the other person in front of you and ask them, what is the reason? Why did you behave like that? And then forget it. Then do not look for an answer in your head. Don't make it up. Then you could even forget that you ask yourself that question. If you're doing it now, that's okay, you can forget that. You will find the answer. Something in yourself, in your consciousness, is shifting already. Because you have opened yourself to a deeper reality. You now want to understand and go deeper. You're now realizing that whatever happened was happening for you, and now is happening through you, but it definitely was not happening to you like you felt before. Everything happens for you and through you. If we were always able to come from this state of awareness, we would immediately ask ourselves, why is he or she behaving like that? Why is this situation happening to me? And then we would logically ask ourselves, I might not know that, but what is it that the response, the reaction, the part that I now choose to play in what has happened, in what they have done, in what is globally happening. And if I ask these questions with a certain degree of awareness and curiosity, we will then realize and understand the gift in what we regard it to be the tragedy. Anybody wants to comment anything? We've got like 3 minutes. But I can see now, with all that is happening globally, many people have actually taken this opportunity, and I'm so happy for them and for all of us, because whatever we do, we don't just do it for ourselves, we do it for everybody, for the whole planet. Many people are actually using what is happening to empower themselves. Many people are asking themselves, how can I now empower myself? How is it that I can interpret and use the actual social and economic situation to go from a victim standpoint to a creator standpoint, meaning this is the situation, I can't change it, but what can I do? What can I gain from it? Many people are realizing what they truly want to do in life. Many people are realizing that personal relationships are more important than things that they thought they were important before. Many people are realizing that they don't know yet what's good is coming out of this, but they have shifted from thinking and resisting, I'm a victim of this, from realizing being a victim and resisting it, it's not bringing me anywhere, and it's not bringing anybody anywhere. And so they understand that ultimately there is no victims and there's no perpetrators. And when they forgive, they get healed. Then we go from despair to peace. And some people even go from feeling physically healed to feeling healthy. Because forgiving is healing, and healing is revealing. Revealing the wholeness, the completeness of who we truly are. Now, time is up already. I thank you very, very, very much. I wish you all a great evening. And the next English Live is going to be on Saturday. I believe it's going to be earlier. It's going to be at 6 o'clock UK time. we're going to talk about presence and the power of present in action, as action, and no, the power of now as present and action. Ciao, good night.